Alright, let's take a look at these Altec Lansing 846B Valencia. See them in person now. Get in the right angle here, we can see the light. As you can see, the veneer turned out really nice on them. It's the Curly Cherry. Was done locally here, actually done by my neighbor. Turns out my neighbor has done veneer for almost 30 years, and where I live have access to veneer about any kind you can think of, any wood type, whatever. And I told him I wanted some sort of American wood, but something a little more special than just basic walnut or cherry or maple. And he recommended, because I told him I really like cherry, which my AV stand here is built out of cherry from our own farm. This is probably, I don't know, 15 years old now. So he recommended curly cherry or figured cherry, which is kind of rare. It's a fairly expensive wood or veneer, but it absolutely turned out really nice. It's just super pretty. You can, even on this side, you can kind of see the lines going side to side. That's what they call the figure, or what they call curly. Oh, this side I'll pull back so you can see. Down here in the bottoms, here you can kind of see these lines, these marks going side to side, kind of offset. That's what they call it, the figuring, or the curly, what makes it curly cherry. They don't know what it is. It's an anomaly that occurs in the wood. But yeah, the light hits it just right. It's very, very pretty. These are done, they're supposed to be sequential and grain matched. So this one, the 2 or 3 pieces of veneer covering it would have all been cut sequentially in order by the machine. And then one piece starts at the bottom, comes up, goes over, and back down the other side. So the grain is continuous up and over the whole way. And it's done that way on both of them. Since it wasn't going to take a lot of veneer to do them, it wasn't really an issue to have that little extra bit done, but it's kind of turns out cool. You got these 2 dark marks at the bottom that kind of mirror each other, and then these 2 right here that kind of mirror each other on the side. Just absolutely very pretty. Yeah, do my best with one hand here. And then same thing on the front. And some of it I'll be repeating myself because I'm doing this video after. I also have a kind of a picture slideshow thing I'm going to do, so I'll probably be repeating myself a bit, but just based on, I have other things I got to do for work, and then when the person's going to come to pick them up, I'm kind of just doing pieces when I can. Yeah, they rebuilt the corners up on these. The corners originally, especially in the backs, were really beat up. Well, I should say especially on the bottoms, were really beat up, and they were able to fill the corners in, build them back up, sand them, re-square them, and then put the veneer over them. And I believe he said it's a 2-ply veneer. So here's a sample piece that they gave me for to test different finishes on. I just went with a straight clear coat. I didn't do anything. I didn't do any what's it called, a toner or anything. Or any stain. I just did straight clear coat because I'd rather see the natural color of the cherry as it ages without any stain. But yeah, you can see this side has the veneer, and then the back side has a, almost seems like a really like a veneer of like masonite or particle board, and it's a 2-ply. It makes it much thicker and more durable. It's just a more expensive veneer. Oh, and then as you can see now, they have the half grills on them, which I did because I have there's the full grills with the original Altec badges. The original, we can just look at one of these. The original frames, which you'll probably see in the pictures. Because I'm probably gonna, when I edit this, I'm gonna do the slideshow part first. But The original, one of the grills was fine, or the frame was fine. The other one had busted off right here, and the corner, well, busted like here and up here somewhere, and the corner was just hanging limp. It was only being held by the original fabric. So the good one I used as a template and traced it onto new board, and had my new full frames. And then I didn't know what I wanted to do with the original frames because one of them was broken. So I measured it, and I figured out right here where it had broken, it kind of broke and kind of went down a little bit. So on the other side, I just took my saw and cut it off straight, and then on this side, I took some wood putty, or not wood putty. It's basically like a wood putty, but I can't remember what it's called now. But it's a little more durable. Yeah, I don't remember what it's called. I think it's made by DAP. But it's kind of like wood putty, but when it dries and hardens, it's a little more durable. It's a little hard. You can sand it and shape it. Almost kind of like body filler, like Bondo almost. Sorry, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but used it to fill that in and make a straight edge. And it turns out, with just the bottom half from here down, that's how it lines up. So these are the original frame, but it's just the bottom half. Here, and do it like that. And yeah, I just basically cut the horn section off the top because I didn't really want to throw them away and waste them, and I actually figured it would be kind of a cool way to kind of have a grill on it and protect it, but also you could still show off the horns, because the horns, there's a lot less concern with them being damaged, you know, unless some kid has a long stick or something. Even then, you're not going to really get in there to hurt the diaphragm or anything. The woofer would be the main thing you want to protect on a daily basis if they're going to be out in a room with people daily, yada yada. So I thought it'd be a good idea to do a half grill or a 2/3 grill, and just cut them both off. And the fabric, I spent a little bit of time at Joann Fabric trying to find a material that was similar to the original. It's almost pretty much like a burlap. This is called a soft canvas, but it feels a lot like burlap or like an old potato sack, I guess. But it is just a lot softer. It still kind of has that thick burlappy texture and look, but it's just a little softer. The only downside about these kind of materials is they're not very stretchy. So even though I stretched them and stapled them as good as I could, over time they will start to sag, because as the fabric will relax as time goes by. And the reason I didn't glue them, they're only stapled around these edges, is because in time, whoever has them, if that fabric continues to relax, it's going to start to sag and stuff. They can easily pull the staples and re-pull it and re-staple it, and tighten that fabric up again. And I figured if I glued it, it'd be much more difficult to do that. This way, they don't have to get different fabric or anything. They can keep it. All they got to do is pull the staples, re-pull it tight, re-staple it. Shouldn't be that big of a deal. So, but yeah, they turned out real nice. Let me get the grills out of the way here. And the fabric, I guess, it's black and like a whitish silver thread mixed in. You can kind of see here, it's a cross pattern. There's a square. You notice it a lot. Excuse me. You notice it a lot more in person, but for me, it suited the just the color scheme well. The original was like a kind of a burgundy color. This is, like I said, it's a similar fabric style and type, but to me, it's a bit, the color texture modernizes it a little bit. To me, it still suits the speakers very well. And it sucked because I bought enough to do both grills, and it turned out a section of the fabric when I was working on the second grill had some sort of issue with the fabric. I don't know what happened to it. Didn't look right, Most people probably wouldn't have noticed it. I asked my wife, she said she didn't really notice it, but it's like one of those things when you're working on this kind of stuff, once you notice an issue, you always see it immediately, even though like nobody else sees it. So I ended up going back to Jo-Ann Fabrics, and somebody had come in, this is only a day later, somebody came in and bought the rest of the entire roll of fabric. They had no more. They don't know if they would be getting more, because I guess that's just not how it works there. There's no part number really. They didn't have, I didn't take a picture, write down the part number when I got it the first day, and whoever bought the second took the whole thing and had the barcode and everything on it. So to get more, I had to go. I appreciate Jo-Ann Fabrics website being this thorough, but yes, I went on their website, and you can go through hundreds of types of fabric on their website, and just based on the type of fabric it is, I was able to narrow it down by that, and then go through, I don't know, at least 50, 60, 70 types of fabric till I found this one. I was pretty sure it was the exact one, and I had to order more off the website, and luckily it was the exact same thing. But yeah, just getting the fabric done on these took a little bit, especially having to order the second part. I did go to Jo-Ann Fabrics once before, and places like Hobby Lobby and Michaels, and just wasn't finding anything I wanted. And then I think the third time I stopped in and kept sniffing around through just stuff Jo-Ann Fabrics had, I'd come across this, and I thought, like, perfect, this will work. And it was pretty disheartening when I went back and found out somebody bought the rest of it, and then I really didn't know what I was going to do, because I couldn't find anything else I really wanted to use. But yeah, luckily their website is set up in such a way, pretty much every fabric that's in the store is on the website, and I found it, and they just basically go to the nearest store, which there was another store not too far away, as far as shipping is concerned. I wouldn't drive there, but that had some, and I was able to just buy another yard or two, and they sent it to me, but it ended up dragging out. Just doing the fabric for the covers ended up becoming a 2 or 3 week thing. And then the little turquoise tab at the bottom here is it seemed like on a lot of original or the vintage Altec drivers, they had a turquoise. The woofers often had a turquoise frame. And then on some of the voice of the theater speakers, they had sometimes turquoise badging. I haven't researched enough if this turquoise color was part of Altec's marketing colors or something, but it seemed to be on some of their vintage stuff. The backs of these woofers are just black, they're not turquoise, but I've seen in a lot of pictures a lot of the woofers are. So I found this turquoise material or ribbon and stapled it on the bottom, because since these set inside this front frame, you know, once you get them on there, they're kind of hard to get off without like a butter knife. So I put this pull tab, turquoise pull tab, down there on the bottom. That's not all the way on, but you get the idea. That way you don't because I don't want people pulling on the logo, or the badge, which what a lot of people did. They just grab it by the badge and pull out on it. So this way it gives you a little bit of a pull tab. It's a nice little accent color that goes along with, I would say, original Altec colors. Let me look at the back real quick. The backs I didn't do much with. I did fill all this in with liquid nail. There was a decent sized gap, and I know, yeah, you can, some people remove the back of these or whatever. But yeah, I wanted them all just as rigid and sealed up as possible, so I went around that whole edge, and then I covered this particle board, even with just one quick layer of clear coat to kind of help seal that particle board up from moisture. And then you can see here, obviously I've removed the old push pin or spring-loaded push terminals and put in some modern 5-way binding posts. The crossovers were in excellent condition. Again, this will probably be mentioned in the slideshow where I show all the parts. There wasn't really much wrong with them. They were had a little bit of corrosion and stuff on them, which cleaned off easily. I disconnected all the components and tested them individually, and everything tested fine. The caps on both of them tested almost exactly within, like, I think one of them was within like 0.1 of what it said on the cap, and the other one was about the same. They're really, really close. I don't remember exactly, but they were super close. I've had new capacitors that test further off, so I was pretty surprised. And then the same thing with the inductors. They tested pretty much right on where they're supposed to be. So I didn't really want to change anything. I didn't even change the original wiring that runs from the crossover to the, you know, the drivers. Some people say, oh, it's a dinky little wire. You know, they'll sound much better if you put, you know, 12 gauge in there. And I just took the wire and connected it to, I have a DATS V3 test system, Dayton Audio DATS V3, and I can check resistance on the wire and stuff and make sure there's no internal breaks or any, you know, kinks inside the wire that could be causing, you know, a break in the wire, causing, you know, issues. And the wire tested perfectly fine. You know, even though it's probably 16 or 18 gauge wire running from the crossover to the woofer and the horn. It's such a short distance. Being 16 or 18 gauge is not going to be an issue at all. It'd be an issue if it was 30 foot long, but when it's 2 foot long, it would probably be fine. It's either way. So I didn't feel any need to mess with this. I just left the original wiring. All the crossovers are all original. I mean, I only did a few things here and there that kind of take them out of their original look. And like with the grills, it was just an aesthetic thing. I didn't really want to go with the original burlap. I don't know. I have a piece of the original fabric around here somewhere, but it's not a very desirable color at all anymore. So, this badge here is not original. It's I can't remember his name. I have a terrible memory apparently. It doesn't help. I've been out plowing snow since 3 o'clock this morning. I just got home an hour ago and I haven't slept. Another guy in Iowa, he makes all kinds of badges. It seems like mostly vintage audio badges. I got these Altec ones, so when the half grill, as you can see it's on here, the half grill, I don't have another set of original badges, and I didn't want to spend $50 for a set. And there was only one set available, and I think they ended up selling, so I would have had to wait a while and hope a set turns up. So come across these, and that way it gives you a bit of a badge while the half grill's on. And the next thing that was changed on one of these, I don't remember which one it was, but this little frame here that the grill sits on was not black, and on one of them it was. So on this one, or on one, you know, I just painted it black so they both match. And I wanted this whole inner face to be all black. I did not repaint the horns, so there is some slight chipping and stuff around the screws a bit, but other than that, they look fine. I didn't want to mess around with trying to repaint the horn and get paint evenly down inside the throat here or any of that. So, and then the main difference on the front are the 4 claw nuts are gone. Once I took these out and realized they had, you know, 8 screws, I really wanted to use all 8. Just to help, you know, have a more rigid mount, or, you know, more secure mounting of the woofer, and then the woofer being more rigidly mounted to this front baffle should make the front baffle a little more inert or rigid, supporting it, since the woofer has got a really heavy cast aluminum basket and it covers, you know, it takes up this whole baffle here. It should help make it a little more stiff or rigid or inert, whatever word you want to use, on that front board by using all 8 screw holes. And I just flush mounted a heavier Phillips bolt, so you would still need to remove this front baffle here to take it off. But that, and I didn't like the look of the claw nuts on the front. I guess it's not terrible, but I didn't really like the look of it. I wanted something where you're kind of back a little bit. You almost don't even notice the little black Phillips heads. They kind of blend right in. Same thing with the Velcro tabs. I didn't staple them, which I get a little bit worried that the glue won't hold and they'll pull off because it is fairly strong Velcro, but I didn't want the little silver bits from the staples in there. I wanted to, when you sit back in a dim room, I just wanted the front to be completely blacked out as much as possible. But it's one of those things, if it became an issue, you could easily re-glue them on and just staple them. Wouldn't be a big deal. And then the bottoms are custom-made dollies, since they're very big and heavy. They're very difficult to move around, and you know, when you're restoring and dealing with a big speaker like this, having it on a table helps because you can slide it around and stuff, and I was doing that. But once you have them to a point where they're back on the ground and you're having to move them, and you know, just you got to have wheels under them. And I didn't want to build a permanent fixed base or stand like these. Originally, most of these come with probably a 2 or 3 inch tall plywood baseboard that goes around the bottom, but these had been pushed around so much that bottom plywood was just completely shot and falling off. It could not be saved, and I considered making a new base for it for a while, but then even then it's like, well, if you want to move them or slide them around, it's just so difficult to do that. So I figured I would just make some custom blacked out dollies that kind of just sit under them inconspicuously, and even if you wanted to, you get them where you want. You could take the speaker off the dolly, throw a nice black blanket or something over the dolly, and then set the speaker back on top, and then it would hide the wheels and stuff if you really wanted. But that, and they also help kind of get them up off the floor. And then if you want, you could put blocks in the front to kind of bring them up, tilt them up in the front if you wanted. But the main idea is, when you sit back from them, it gets them off the floor. It makes them easier to move around. They're plenty strong to hold their weight, so you can just easily, maneuver them, and you're getting them set up in your room, and you're going to want to move them and tilt them in and out to kind of get them perfected. Just having wheels under them makes it so much easier. I've just mostly been powering them off this. It's nothing special, but I just love the look of this, the black and silver with the blue. That's the original blue. It's not an LED kit. This Fisher 122. I think I only paid $100 for it. Glass is kind of shiny. There we go. And yeah, it's in really good shape. It's not, like I said, it's nothing special. I think it's only maybe 18 or 20 watts times 2, but it's 1970s watts, so it's especially for something like these, it's more than enough power. Yeah, I can't say it's got any, it's nothing super special, but to me it sounds good. I love the look of it. I haven't really had to do anything to it. Whoever had it took good care of it. Haven't had any issues with it, and it's one of those things I've had a couple other vintage stereos that are a little more, I don't know, respected or sought after, and this one sounds darn near just as good. I don't feel like I'm missing out by using this, but mainly it's that black, silver, and blue front is just perfect for me, so I keep that around. There is a couple other models that look similar to this that are a little bigger that I might try to pick up. But yeah, I'm really pleased with the way they came out. Took long enough. It took about 8 months, beginning to end. And I decided I'm not going to keep them. These are the biggest speaker I've restored. I've done a handful of Sansui and acoustic research, and some Kenwoods and Pioneers. Some of them probably people never heard of. They're from the 70s, but they weren't super popular. And on a lot of them, I modernize them, maybe add newer drivers or just a newer tweeter or something, and then put together a better crossover network, and then fix them up. And a lot of the older Sansuis and like these, I just leave them original and fix them up. Try to get them going again. The idea is that these were just sitting, well, to say, originally I didn't plan on getting them. I was selling an Emotiva preamp that I didn't need anymore to a fella down the street, and it just so happened turns out he had these in his garage, you know, and after I got there, instead of offering me cash, he wanted to know if I would trade, if I remember right, and said sure. I wasn't really interested in doing any big projects, but I knew what they were, so, and I guess he said he just didn't have the time to get to them. I think he was going to restore them as well. He just didn't have the time, and like everyone, you got a ton of stuff going on. But these, and probably my other favorite speakers, I didn't do a full restoration on, but I did a lot of work on them, was a set of Sansui SP20000s. I did a video on them, kind of a bigger tower speaker with a passive radiator and some interesting horn, bullet horn, mid, and tweeter kind of thing. Very cool speaker, sounded very good. Up until these, those were probably my favorite sounding vintage speaker, was those SP20000s. I guess moving into sound quality and stuff, these don't necessarily, well, these take the cake, but I guess not in every genre, just because I think that's just how it is with horns. These are the first speaker I've had that have such a large horn that are this style of speaker. So it's hard to compare them to anything else, because you wouldn't compare this style of speaker to, say, you know, a bookshelf speaker, or you know, really a non-horn speaker. I guess I've had speakers with waveguides. Not every, what does that saying go? Not every waveguide is a horn, but every horn is a waveguide, or something like that. Some I don't know, audio engineer said that in one of the books I had or something. So getting to listen to these is just like, whoa, 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 whoa. I did not experience anything like these. The detail is just, the horns just sound so big, and they just expose every tiny last little bit of detail, for better or for worse. And the problem with that is a lot of modern music, if you want to listen to, say, Metallica, or I don't know, any modern hip hop, we'll just say modern music, it just doesn't really sound that good on these, because since the horns expose every last little detail, you kind of start hearing into the recording that you're not meant to hear this stuff, because you listen to it on, like, those Sonys back there, it sounds fine. It doesn't sound amazing, but it sounds fine. One of the big ones that kind of blew me away was, well, not in a good way, was the Adele. I've used a couple Adele songs for a while now on, regular speakers. I tried them on these. It sounds pretty good, but I don't know if it's just the amount of compression or what. The horns, they just don't sound that good. Adele, at least the CDs, I don't know if there's a audio file versions of her recordings or not, but just the everyday CD you get do not sound very good on these. Same thing with a lot of other pop music. It just doesn't sound good on them. The way the music's produced and mastered, and like I said, compression and all these other things, the horns just expose all that, and it doesn't sound very good. Now, on the other hand, if you get some orchestral music or instrumental music, or something like Ray Charles, this stuff sounds phenomenal on them. Going back and forth between a set of normal bookshelf speakers, or typical everyday woofer tweeter speaker, versus a horn speaker, it's just night and day difference. I see why so many people now, having them and being able to spend time with them and listen to all these different types of music on these, why everybody that has these listens to the type of music they do on them, because those genres or types of music just sound incredible on these speakers. The horns, and even the woofers, there's just so much authority. They're very dynamic. I measure these, which will probably be shown in the other part. The woofers in these get down to about 40 hertz, which is enough. But every little, kick drum, or anything that happens in the low end, they don't even have to be turned up very loud. It just projects right out that 15-inch woofer. You still almost feel it and then, you know, horns, strings, you know, all the kind of instrumental stuff just is projected and just sounds so big and so live out of the horns. It's just crazy. So yes, I see why I totally get why people like horn speakers now. I've had, like I said, other speakers that have, we could almost say like an aggressive waveguide or a smaller horn. I've obviously heard lots of PA speakers, but not, you know, usually when you hear PA speakers, they're not playing instrumental music or jazz or swing on them in your house. You know, it's usually in a, you know, a commercial or, you know, professional audio setup or environment. So yeah, having that oh, what do I want to say? I don't know. Just the way these speakers, and I guess I'm assuming a lot of similar Klipsch speakers from this era, you know, large woofers, large horns, they produce instrumental music so well, is why, oh, there's the furnace, is why a lot of these guys really like these speakers for that type of music, because they just do it so well. And there is a few, you know, like I don't know, the Eagles and a lot of, you know, some 70s rock or yacht rock, and, you know, Chicago, Moody Blues. There are everyday music that does sound good on them. You know, it sounds great, but once you start getting into the newer rock, I'm assuming, again, it just has a lot to do with the way music is produced and mastered now. It just doesn't sound good on these speakers, which is fine, because a lot of people that like these speakers don't listen to that kind of music on them anyway. I even had to get my turntable going. I had, you know, the Eagles record, one of my favorite records here. Absolutely, probably my favorite is the Jackson Browne Running on Empty, just because this whole album was not recorded in a studio. It was recorded on the road when they toured. As you can see, where it usually says Rosie recorded backstage in the big rehearsal room at Saratoga Performing Arts Center. You know, it says where each track was recorded live on stage at Merriweather Post Pavilion, Columbia, Maryland. Every track on here is not from a studio. It was recorded on the road, on tour, and it's probably one of the best sounding albums. I don't remember who recorded it or who did it, but they did an excellent job, and it gives the album that feeling like you're kind of hanging out with the band on the road as they play the music, and it just sounds so good for basically live music in a non-recording room, or, you know, yeah, it's just turned out excellent. And then Eagles, same thing. Obviously not the same type of recording, but something, I just needed something that wasn't going to have all the issues of, you know, the way modern music's recorded. And yes, records sound absolutely great on them. I did listen to some Tool and Perfect Circle, which surprisingly didn't sound too bad. Most of the Perfect Circle sounded fine on them. So they must record their music in a better way, I guess. Yeah, I guess let me get something set up here. Unfortunately, I can't play anything that you would know, because it'll be copyrighted, and YouTube, they jump on it within just seconds anymore. So I'll have to, unfortunately, use some low, you know, just some copyright-free music. But I guess it'll be better than nothing. And obviously, I don't want to hear, oh, this ain't, you know, they don't sound a certain way. This is just a demo through YouTube. They're just going to sound like you're listening to speakers through YouTube, recorded on a cell phone. I'm not setting up a couple $100 worth of microphones to record speakers to play for you to play back through YouTube. It doesn't make any sense. So give me a second here. We'll get something set up. And this is, for what it's worth, this is my little space I use here is somewhat treated. It's not perfect, but it does help. It's not an untreated. It's much better than an untreated room, put it that way. So we'll do a few more songs here, just whatever I can find that's won't get me a copyright strike or something. I think that's going to be it, guys. I think my guy's here. Thanks for watching.